The next topic is contact resistance. This contact resistance comes into picture in conduction heat transfer because of the fact that no surface can be a perfectly smooth surface. Also, the contact between two surfaces can never be a perfect contact. So because of the inevitable peaks and valleys on the surfaces, there occur certain number of voids or gaps in the contact region between the two surfaces. Obviously, if there is no vacuum, then if not other gas or fluid, air by default will be filled in those gaps or voids. That air will not be having sufficient space to have bulk free motion, and that's why the heat transfer through that layer of air or through that small very thin layer of air, those are that is not even continuous, will be through conduction only. And as we know that the thermal conductivity of air is very low, so that air filled in the gaps will act as resistance for the conduction heat transfer. And that basically if the number of gaps increases, then accordingly the thermal resistance for conduction heat transfer also increases. So if these two surfaces are there, then this surface is like this, let us say, and the other surface which has to be in contact with this is let us say this is of course an exaggerated view of the gaps, but still these gaps, although in micrometers or sometimes in even lower dimensions, but still there will be some gaps whenever two surfaces are kept in contact with each other. So the more the gap, the more will be the resistance offered by the air or any other gas or fluid which is entrapped in these gaps to the conduction heat transfer. So conduction heat transfer actually will be interrupted by these gaps, and that is rightly called as contact resistance. So the reason for contact resistance is mainly the surface roughness of the joining surfaces, which causes voids, which are then filled with air. Usually it will be air. It can be, if the contact surface is in some special environment or atmosphere, then the respective fluid will enter into the gaps, but in usual cases it will be air. So the contact resistance causes decrement in the fluid heat flow, and as this acts as an addition to the existing resistance of the circuit, this is called as contact resistance. There are certain methods with which we can decrease the contact resistance. Of course, that cannot be the method cannot be to make the surfaces perfectly smooth. First thing is in that aspect is that it is almost impossible to make the surfaces perfectly smooth. And second thing is, the more we will try to approach the perfect smoothness, the more will be the cost incurred in the surface finish of this surfaces. And we cannot practically we cannot make all the usual things so costly. So it has to be techno-economically suitable, and when it comes to economy, we have to have an optimized value for every parameter. That optimized value in terms of economy will be the surfaces should have optimized surface roughness, so that neither we shall lose a lot in terms of conduction heat transfer, nor we shall incur a huge cost in manufacturing of those surfaces. So the surfaces are made, now we have to join those surfaces, and we have to allow the conduction heat transfer to take place between the two surfaces. Those two surfaces might have been manufactured at two different places with two different regulations and set of parameters. So we cannot finish those surfaces again to join them. Of course we can finish, but that too will not be up to a very huge extent. What we can do if the surfaces are already prepared and we still want to decrease the contact resistance, then that can be done to a certain extent by applying some suitable interfacial fluid which will be having thermal conductivity somewhat larger than air. By this we will ensure that the contact resistance is not very high as it will be in case of air. So if the fluid is something other than air, which is having a thermal conductivity value larger than air, then of course the resistance offered will be relatively less. So this is one of the methods by which we can decrease contact resistance. The other method can be by applying soft metals like indium, lead, tin or silver as the interstitial or filler material between the two dissimilar solids. So if these solids are dissimilar, then we can apply some paste kind of metals, means which will be in paste form. We can apply those paste made up of either indium or lead or tin or silver. That depends again on the requirement. So if we can afford to have a costly paste here, then we will go for silver, because silver will have larger thermal conductivity as compared to other three. So we can go for silver, and based on the requirement and based on the economy what we can afford, we can select the metal from this, and the suitable metal can be applied in paste form. It can be applied in this gap. Also we can have a silicon based thermal grease. This thermal grease will be having thermal conductivity as compared to air. It will be having thermal conductivity very high as compared to air. So that will result into decreasing the contact resistance to a great extent. Also in case of permanent joints, we can have an epoxy or soft shoulder like rich in lead, or a hard solder which such as gold or tin alloy, which can be used to decrease the contact resistance. Now again, it depends on the requirement, it depends on the cost of manufacturing, it depends on the cost of the equipment or the system which we are using. So based on all such parameters, we can decide which of these methods can be applied to decrease the contact resistance. But decreasing the contact resistance is utmost important. The decrease can be very small, as we can get in this case. In this case the decrease will be very small, because if we are applying some interfacial fluid, that fluid will have thermal conductivity although larger than air, but still the thermal conductivity will be very less because it is a fluid. So in all other cases, as you can see, it is semi-solid. In this case, these two cases, it can be a semi-solid. So semi-solid obviously will have thermal conductivity more than a fluid. Moreover, if the semi-solid is the paste of a metal, soft metal, then of course the thermal conductivity will be very high. But the effective thermal conductivity which will be resulting in this contact region will not be the equal to the actual thermal conductivity of the metal which we have applied here, because that is not forming a continuous film here. So that is the reason it will not have the actual thermal conductivity of the metal which we are applying in the contact depth will be more than the effective thermal conductivity what we will be getting here in the contact region. Also we can have some paste or thermal grease which will be silicon based. Or if it is a permanent joint, then of course in the case of permanent joints, especially in case of hard shoulders, we can have very low values of contact resistance. So these were some of the methods with which we can go for decreasing the contact resistance value. Next topic is to derive the heat conduction equation in one dimension steady state condition. without internal heat generation for a cylinder. So there is a hollow cylinder with inner radius R1, outer radius R2. The inner surface of the cylinder is at a constant temperature T1 or uniform temperature T1. The outer surface is at a uniform temperature T2. When we say uniform, that means anywhere in this surface you can find the temperature to be T2 only. It is also, these temperatures are also constant. So these are not changing with respect to time because we are considering steady state condition. Okay, and since it is one dimensional, so we will not be considering the heat z and phi directions in this case. We will be considering only radial direction heat transfer. Okay, so consider the cylinder shown in the figure. The inner surface is at temperature T1, outer surface is at temperature T2. The inner radius is R1, outer radius is R2, and so on. So the boundary conditions can be expressed in these terms. At R is equal to R1, that is radius is equal to R1, temperature is T1. At R is equal to R2, temperature is T2. Generalized heat conduction equation in cylindrical coordinate system can be written as 1 upon R dou by dou R of R dou T by dou R plus dou square T by R square dou square phi plus dou square T by dou Z square plus Qg by K is equal to rho C by K 1 dou T by dou T 1 upon, or this can be written as 1 upon alpha dou T by dou T. Now there are certain conditions which we have assumed for this system. So first condition is one dimensional heat conduction. We will keep this intact and we will neglect the heat transfer in phi and z directions. So these two terms will get cancelled. Then there is no without internal heat generation. So the system is without internal heat generation, that is there is no internal heat generation. This term also becomes 0. Okay, so this term, these three terms will be 0 based on the condition what we have considered here. Now also the heat conduction is taking place in steady state condition. So this dou T by dou T term will be 0, and that's why the term on right hand side will be 0. So the only term left is this. So 1 upon R. Now it can be written as d by dr because temperature is varying only along R direction. So d by dr of R dt by dr is equal to 0. So for the given case, this is the expression. As we said that this dou by dou R can be now written as d by dr. Okay, and this R has been sent to RHS where it got multiplied with 0 and resulted in 0. So the final equation comes out to be d by dr of R dt by dr is equal to 0. When we integrate it once, so if for this quantity, as we can see, the differential is 0, that means the quantity itself is a constant quantity, so it is not varying with R. So R dt by dr is equal to some constant C1. When we integrate it further, before integration we will shift this R to the right hand side, it becomes C1 by R. So dt by dr is equal to C1 by R. Again when we integrate this equation, we will get T of R, that is T is a function of R now, which is equal to C1 log natural R. When we integrate this, we will get log natural R plus C2. This C2 is the second constant of integration which we have got because of this integration. So now the expression of temperature distribution is T of R is equal to C1 log natural R plus C2. Now by applying the boundary conditions, we have to get the values of C1 and C2, and thus we can get the temperature profile. So T1, when we apply the boundary conditions are at R is equal to R1, T is equal to T1, and at R is equal to R2, T is equal to T2. So simply in this case what we will be doing is, when we substitute R is equal to R1, temperature becomes T1. When we substitute R is equal to R2, temperature becomes T2. So these two equations will obtain T1 is equal to C1 log natural R1 plus C2, and T2 is equal to C1 log natural R2 plus C2. By solving these two expressions simultaneously, we can get the values of C1 and C2 because those are the only unknowns. So C1 comes out to be T1 minus T2 upon log natural R1 upon R2, and C2 is equal to T1 minus T2 upon log natural R1 upon R2 multiplied by log natural R1. So now we will be substituting C1 and C2 values from expressions 1 and 2 in this expression, and thus we will be getting the temperature profile expression in this form, which can be simplified as T of R is equal to T1 plus T1 minus T2 log natural R upon R1 upon log natural R1 upon R2. Now we also have to have the value of dt by dr. So dt by dr, from here we have seen that dt by dr is C1 upon R. Now since we have the value of C1 as T1 minus T2 upon log natural R1 upon R2, when we multiply it with 1 upon R, we will get the value of dt by dr. That dt by dr will be used for finding the heat conduction expression. So by applying Fourier's law of heat conduction, we can get the expression for heat conduction for the given case, and it is minus k into a into dt by dr. This dt by dr because we are considering heat transfer in radial direction only. So dt by dr, as we had discussed, T1 minus T2 upon log natural R1 upon R2 multiplied by 1 upon R, and area will be the lateral area, that is 2 pi RL. Okay. So this is the area of heat transfer in the direction perpendicular to the direction of heat transfer. Now heat transfer is radial, so area will be 2 pi RL. So for cylindrical system, hollow cylinder, when the steady state condition is maintained, when there is no internal heat generation, and when the heat conduction is only in one direction, that is radial direction, then the rate of heat conduction can be given in this form. By simplifying, we get Q is equal to 2 pi KL T1 minus T2 upon log natural R2 upon R1. Now this log natural R1 upon R2 has been changed to log natural R2 upon R1. So log natural R2 upon R1 is equal to actually log natural minus of log natural R1 upon R2. This minus sign has got cancelled with this, and that's why this is the form in which we can write the heat conduction equation for a hollow cylinder, where only in the radial direction only the heat conduction is taking place in steady state condition and without internal heat generation. This can also be written in this form. This form gives us the thermal resistance for the system, and thermal resistance for the system is log natural R2 upon R1 upon 2 pi KL. So this is RTH for cylinder. Okay. We will stop here today. Thank you.